Cool. Welcome, guys, to the this edition of Azure of Scale Up Thursdays. So today we are going to talk about machine learning and AI. The topic for today's webinar is automated machine learning using Azure ML service. So my name is Vinayak Hegde, and I'm the CTO in residence for Microsoft for Startups. And we have an initiative called Highway to 100 Unicorns. And as a part of helping startups scale up, we are running this series of webinars, both on business and tech. This is the 10th in the series, and it's on Auto ML. So I'll tell a little bit about the topic and also introduce the speaker. The topic is automated machine learning using Azure ML service. The art of building optimal machine learning models involves identifying the right features and transformations to be applied on those features. Also, selection of applicable ML algorithms and then testing them for a grid of hyperparameters, right? And especially with neural networks, you have a lot of hyperparameters that need to be tuned. So Auto ML feature of Azure ML powers professional and non-professional data scientists to build machine learning models rapidly and automates time-consuming and iterative tasks of model development. And this is done using breakthrough research, and it reduces the time to market. So automated machine learning intelligently selects from a wide array of algorithms and hyperparameters to help build highly accurate models for common machine learning tasks such as classification, regression, and time series forecasting, including deep neural network support, and it can handle large data sets and improve model scores. A little bit about the speaker. The speaker today is Praful Vani. Praful has more than 17 years of experience in software development and architecture. His area of expertise includes large-scale data processing systems. He has done a lot of work on Hadoop, for example, and machine learning pipelines and large-scale app deployments on the Azure public cloud. So before I go over and hand it over to Praful, I want to talk about the social media challenge that we have. You can see it on your screen right now. So you can win a swag bag from Microsoft for Startups, and the way you can do that is you post about the event on your on your Twitter handles using the hashtag below #ScaleUpThursdays, and we will select the best tweet. And at the end of the webinar, the tweet we like the most, we will get in touch with you and send you a swag bag. I wanted to talk a little bit about the question and answer sessions. So we'll be taking three breaks for question and answers at logical points in the presentation. Meanwhile, at any point of time, if you have any questions, you can ask them, and me and Praful will try to answer them on the chat itself. So you can use a chat interface to ask the questions. And whatever questions there are, I will collate those questions, and then in the question and answer breaks, we'll talk about those specific questions, and I'll try to answer them the best that we can. The webinar is being recorded, and you should have access to the recording. The slides also will be available post the talk. So with that kind of housekeeping announcements, it's over to you, Praful. You can start the talk.
Thanks a lot, Vinayak, for having me on this session today. Hi, everybody. This is Praful Lavani. I work as a cloud solution architect, primarily focusing on data and AI technologies, and work with some of the strategic customers in India. So with that, I think let's get started. I just share the screen and let me know once you're able to see the screen. Yeah, so hope you're able to see the screen. Let's get started. So the topic of today's session is...
Yeah, we can see the screen. Also, can you quickly minimize the window at the bottom?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so as Vinayak introduced, we'll be talking through automated machine learning today. This is part of the service called Azure Machine Learning. So let's just jump into the details. The agenda that we have planned for you, we understand that there could be folks who might be doing a lot of data science and would be expert in it, but we would also expect some developers, app developers to join in, or data architects to join in. So we'll cover a brief intro of the art of model creation. We'll look at then what is the problems as part of that model creation process. We'll look at how automated ML can help solve some of those problems. What are the different compute options that you have to run these processes on Azure? and then different ways you can deploy these models once you have actually trained them, making it available to your scoring engines or your app developers is what we'll look at. And then finally, some of the demos for you to get comfortable with the technology. And the last is the reference or research papers that you can look at. We have not just built a black box, but it's a open and transparent engine. And as part of that engine, the work that's happening behind it, we have contributed that as research papers in the community. So let's just dig into the details. Now, how can you go about doing machine learning on Azure? What are different options that you have? So Azure as a public cloud has various different infrastructure options for you. There is a just last month there was AI supercomputer that was announced, and it was built in partnership with OpenAI, and that's if you take the top 500 supercomputers list that's available on the top500.com, it fits at the fifth position. So the things that went into that supercomputer and things that a common man like you and me can use. So you have various CPU options or VM options that you have on Azure Cloud, different core to RAM ratios, VMs with GPUs, and you also have options to train your models on GPUs, not just single GPU VMs, but even on cluster of GPU VMs, as well as you can, once your model is trained, deploy it on specialized hardware like FPGAs, which make inferencing much faster. Once you have the infrastructure, then next is using a set of services that can make your data pipeline, data processing, as well as your training pipeline quicker. So that's the area where we have services like Azure Databricks, Azure Machine Learning, and then there are things like machine learning managed VMs. So Databricks can help you run your Spark pipelines on Azure. You can run it using either automated jobs or run that as a interactive notebooks. So those are some of the first party PaaS services available on Azure. You also have support for different open source frameworks, be it PyTorch, TensorFlow, or Onyx, or even scikit-learn. And when you create data science VMs, you actually have pretty much all the data science utilities that available, including Julia as a language. You have VS Code as an editor. You have some of the data or visualization utilities like Power BI. All of them are pre-installed on the data science VMs. Right? We support various different IDEs, including PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, Jupyter. So Jupyter is now even part of Visual Studio Code. And as you know, Windows 10 has Ubuntu baked into it. So if you just want to run some of your Linux commands for your data processing, and that's what you're comfortable with, you can even use the Ubuntu Bash shell on your Windows 10, right? So, and then there are a lot of pre-trained models that have been made available as REST endpoints. So if you look at cognitive services offerings in Azure, there are different vision areas, and I think a talk happened on that a couple of weeks ago. So there is various models in computer vision, in speech, in language area, which are not just pre-trained models available to you as REST endpoints, so that any app or mobile developer can go ahead and integrate their intelligence into their apps. But along with that, we also made customization features into them. So for an app developer, if you want to build a custom vision model, they can just upload their own set of images, tag them, and deploy that model as a REST endpoint. Right? So that's all the different ways you can do machine learning on Azure. In today's talk, we'll primarily focus on Azure Machine Learning as the service that you are seeing it here, and how we can leverage different components like different open source frameworks or different hardware as part of the machine learning engine. So let's dig into it more. So what all machine learning service provides, right? So first of all, this is built for pretty much all skills level. You can be a data scientist doing machine learning for years. This service can still help you optimize and improve your productivity. You can also be a business user who knows your data, who knows your industry domain very well, and you may want to need a drag and drop designer where you can build your own model. So that's why there is a designer where you can pull your data, you get a canvas where you can actually drag and drop components of data transformations, components of building machine learning models, dropping rows, doing other data transformations. So all of that can be built as a simple UI workflow, and that's part of the designer. Then if you just want to use your own set of models, your own set of code, and all you need is just a compute on Azure, then we also have hosted notebooks interface for you, where you can go ahead and just use the notebooks as infrastructure, notebooks and the compute VMs or the clusters as the backend infrastructure. So various of those things are all part of Azure Machine Learning as a Service. We also have MLOps as an offering, and what we mean by MLOps is the way there is DevOps for normal application development. This is DevOps for machine learning process, right? So you might train a new model. You might figure out a new algorithm, new library, and a set of hyperparameters, and you have trained a new model. Now you want to deploy that into production, right? So before you do that, you want to make sure that it doesn't really break any of cases. So you can check in into your model into the GitHub or onto the repository that you're. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay. Hello. Can you guys
Yeah,
hear me?
we
Okay.
can hear you.
Yeah.
We lost you for a
Okay.
moment then.
Okay, so I was talking about MLOps where this is DevOps plus machine learning, where if you have new model that you have built and you want to deploy that to production, how do you ensure that you don't really break any of your BAU process that's happening or the functionality that your earlier model was already catering towards? So that's the workflow that you can implement using MLOps feature of Azure Machine Learning, right? And the other thing we are trying to do is we are trying to build an open and interoperable service. So this is not just a black box. And as we go through the details of the slides, you would see what I mean by this open and interoperable engine, right? So let's get going. So let's just take an example for the folks who are not too much familiar with the machine learning world. Let's say if you have a problem where you want to detect how much is a car worth, right? Given a particular model of the car, the color of the car, the year of manufacturing, all of those details that you have. Based on that, if you just want to predict what will be the value of that car, right? So there are different things that go in this art of model creation. One is you first try to identify what do you know about that car, right? Which features do you know about that car? So let's say you know how much it has already been driven, what's the mileage, what condition is it in, what's the brand, when was it made, and then what are the regulations in that particular country around using it. So you have various of these features and many more. Now you have heard of different algorithms that you can use for predicting this car price. And now for every algorithm, there is a set of parameters that you need to provide, right? So as part of this process, you first select few features. You go ahead and select a particular algorithm, and you then define a particular metric that you are trying to measure as a success of your run. This gives you, let's say, 30% accuracy. Now you take another combination where you select different set of features. You select another algorithm, nearest neighbors, and with the set of parameters for nearest neighbors. Right? Now you got a result of 50%. Now this is a iterative process, and most of the folks who have been doing machine learning are familiar with this. They would have even automated some of this themselves using various different libraries. But as part of this automation process, there is this art of selecting right set of features, selecting a right set of algorithms, and then selecting right values for those hyperparameters, right? A lot of folks would have learned different values of parameters for specific algorithms based on their experience, right? But some of these things may vary with data, and some of the new algorithms come up. So you can't really be sure of all the different values and all the different cases that it may apply, right? And some of this is also manual work. So though you might have gained experience, but it still may require an iterative process for you to go through. So now, if I want to get to this output of same 95% accuracy, but I don't really want to go through this manual process, right? That's where we have the automated machine learning as a capability in Azure ML. What it does is it does the same process that we looked at in the earlier slide. It takes different features, it takes different algorithms, applies various different transformations on those features, tries different algorithms and tries those algorithms with different values of hyperparameters, and gives you a model that performed best on that data set with the values of what algorithm was used, what are the transformations that were done, and what hyperparameter values were used, right? So that's what automated machine learning is, to automate the manual process of multiple iterations and getting you to the optimal model. So this is what it looks like in a summary. You bring in, as a user, bring in your data set. You define what metric do you want to measure the output or the accuracy of each of the iteration. It could be accuracy, it could be log loss, it could be AUC curve. And then you can define constraints in terms of you don't want this to be a science project that runs for years, but you rather want to put a constraint time and cost it. Let's say run it for 3 hours and run it using 4 GPUs, 4 GPU VMs. That's all I can spend money on. So what automated machine learning does is it identifies all the different combination of feature transformations, algorithm, and parameters that it can use. And just to give you an idea, the way it does is there is a meta model that's been built based on years of experience of having these different scenarios. So let's say there were different machine learning models that have been run historically for various data sets, right? And we have observed what were the characteristics of each of those data sets. We have also observed what results we got when we use certain transformations with a particular set of algorithms and what parameters, hyperparameters that we use. So based on all those historical data of how we ran machine learning models, we have built a meta model which takes these as input, right? At least primarily data set as an input, and gives me a list of different combinations that I can try out for feature transformations, for algorithm values, and for parameters, and runs each of those iterations, arrives at the target metric that we have given for each of the iteration, and then finally gives us a leaderboard where for each of the iteration, what was the model score that or the score that we got for the target metric, right? It gives me those details. Now, let's say if you give 100 iterations as your constraints, right? You said, I want to run this for 3 hours, or you run at the max 100 iterations. In that scenario, it actually runs 98 iterations as these different feature, algorithm, and parameter values. And in the last 2 iterations, it has reserved those for ensemble methods. So we'll go into details of what ensemble methods are and what this uses. But that's the last 2 steps that you have. So you will see 98 different iterations for combination of these values and then 2 reserved for ensemble. So let's go into details of this. I think one thing I want to clarify. So as data scientists and data engineers would have experienced, when you have a data set, you really can build multiple features from the data set. Let's say if you have revenue as a column, you can really build a monthly revenue or an annual revenue or YTD, last 3 years revenue, right, as columns. But there are also some operations that you end up doing, which there is a lot of missing values in that particular column, or is there really imbalance of data set? Like I'm trying to predict yes and no as to variables for my churn scenario, but do I really have as many examples of no as I have for the yes scenario, right? So then do I really have a particular column which has a very high cardinality? And if it has, do I need to perform any transformations on that column? If I have a categorical column, do I need to present it in any other format? Do I need to reduce the number of classes in that particular column? So various of these different techniques that we apply, or if I have a text column, can I generate features for that text column using any of the modern techniques of deep neural nets? So all of these feature transformations that you do, some of them are domain specific. Like as I said, generating a YTD column or generating the 3-month revenue column, or some of the other domain specific features is something that will still have to be part of this process where you're generating data set. But things like applying different scaling or normalization techniques on columns, handling class imbalance, handling high cardinality features, all of that is what automated ML does and applies itself as part of this whole process. Okay. So now going from features into the algorithms, if you see, as I said earlier, we are not trying to build a black box, but we are rather trying to build an open and interoperable system. So if you see that supports 3 scenarios: classification, regression, and time series forecasting. And then for each of the scenario, you also have list of algorithms that it supports. And if you see all of these algorithms, they are brought from some of the open source libraries. So you have some of the algorithms from scikit-learn. You have various different algorithms in TensorFlow that have been used, like DNN classifier. You also have some of the algorithms which Microsoft Research has contributed and made available as part of some of the machine learning libraries. So that's how there are some other libraries like Facebook Prophet. So we are trying to use the best that's available in open source community, and instead of building a black box of our own and making it transparent, so that if you want to do something, take what you saw as part of the AutoML engine and then leverage it as part of some of the other process that you have, you can still just take the model and reuse and use any other scoring mechanism or optimize it further for your needs. So that's what I meant really by the open and interoperable engine that we are trying to build. So that's the list of algorithms that it currently supports, and the classification, regression, and time series forecasting. If you notice, I'm not really discussing much on image here. And when people refer to AutoML, the image seems to be an area of interest that typically goes in that space. Because I know a couple of weeks back, there was a session on vision, and things like custom vision, which is a automated ML service for image scenario, was covered in as part of that. So we'll focus more on tabular and text data as part of today's session. So what is Ensemble and what Ensemble techniques are available as part of automated machine learning? So Vinayak actually shared a good talk with me a couple of days back, and there was a nice example in that talk, and I thought that could be the best way to explain that to folks who don't know Ensemble. There is this story that we have heard in our childhood about the elephant and 5 blind men, right? So each of the blind men is touching the elephant, and so some of them find out the leg of the elephant, some of them find out the trunk of the elephant. So each of them have a different perspective of that elephant. But when we combine all those perspectives, that's when we actually understand that it's an animal of elephant, right? That's what ensemble learning is also, where you have these different algorithms that you applied. Each of them gave you a certain model, but sometimes the combined output of that group of 5 or 10 models may perform much better than what each of those models could actually perform, right? So that's what is ensemble method in nutshell for all the folks. And the way automated ML supports ensemble is, first of all, there is this algorithm, Caruana ensemble selection algorithm, which selects what algorithms to use as part of the ensemble process. So I might have ran 100 iterations as part of my automated ML cycle, and it selects the top 5 from those. And within those top 5 also, if they are within 5% threshold of the best score that I got, right? So, and then iteratively it goes through and adds the new other models, other algorithms to this particular ensemble model. So there are 2 techniques that it supports of how does it combine the individual models. First of them is called as voting approach. The way voting approach work is, let's say I applied logistic regression, I applied SVM and another deep neural net to predict a probability of churn. Now, what voting approach does is it actually takes weighted average of each of the probabilities that came as an output of the top models that I got an output, right? So for each of those top models, whatever probabilities they return, I apply certain weights to each of those, do a weighted average, and get an output probability using the voting approach, right? That's how this combines the output from different models. Then there is another approach called stacking approach, where we have the output probabilities from each of these models, and we use again a meta classifier. So basically we again build a machine learning model to give us a probability as an output from the output that we got for each of these models, right? So the way the automated ML works is, in the stacking approach, it uses logistic regression as part of for this meta classifier in the scenarios when there are classification problems. And when there are regression scenarios that we have, for those, this meta classifier is ElasticNet. So that's how automated ML's ensembling methods work. Now all the flow that you saw, right? And we spoke about feature engineering, we spoke about algorithms, and we spoke about parameters. Now, a lot of times, data scientists have built their own feature engineering. They also selected a certain set of algorithms that they want to apply. And now all that is required is they just want to tune hyperparameters. And a classic example of this could be, let's say in the image world, if you're trying to build a computer vision model and you are trying to use, let's say something like ResNet 18 or ResNet 152 as a base model, and you just want to fine tune it for your own set of images. Now, in that case, when you're doing that, you still have hyperparameters like learning rate or momentum that you want to apply as part of that fine tuning process. So how do you arrive at the best hyperparameter values? And that's when what we have done is we have taken the part of the whole automated ML, which does hyperparameter tuning. It's called as Hyperdrive. We have made that library available as part of SDK so that if you don't want to use the entire flow automated ML, you can just use Hyperdrive as a process. And if you know of an open source alternative called HyperOpt, you can relate to Hyperdrive as equivalent of HyperOpt. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to do automated exploration of the hyperparameter space. You can give a range or a grid of hyperparameter values, and this will automatically select the best that it feels based on the meta model that it has trained. It also applies resource usage. Improves your resource usage by allowing you to provide different early termination policies. So we use bandit policies where you can specify that if, let's say, after first 10 epochs are done, after that, every 2 epochs that run, check if the accuracy that I'm getting is anywhere in the 20% range of the top accuracy that I've already received by other combination of hyperparameters. And if it's way off than that, then the accuracy that I've already received, just terminate this run, because it may run for 50 more epochs, but I know that it's not going to give me optimal value. So that's how it allows you to do efficient resource usage and leverage your compute for better things than just letting it run for hundreds of iterations. Then there is, we have built it as open library, and that's why you can use it as part of any toolkit that you want. You can use it with TensorFlow, PyTorch, or Scikit. It works with both deep learning as well as traditional machine learning approaches, and it gives you optimal performance configs for your model. So this can be for both the DNNs as well as for traditional machine learning algorithms. So with that, I think I'll just take a pause here and hear if there are any questions for till whatever we have covered.
Hi Praful, there are a couple of questions. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me all right, Praful? Praful, I think we can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, Vinayak, now. Sorry, I went on mute accidentally.
Yeah, no worries. So we have actually 3 or 4 questions. I think the first one is from Anand Subhash. He's asking, is there something like Colab in which we can have Jupyter notebook and Tesla backend free? Is it available on Azure or is it planned?
Yeah, so the exact equivalent of Colab is called notebooks.azure.com. That's one way you can just have hosted notebook interface. It gives free compute in the backend, whether it's exactly Tesla or not. I think that's something we can probably check and revert to the audience later. The other aspect of it is, and we'll show that in the demo to you, you can create GPU VMs and have hosted notebooks as part of the Azure Machine Learning Managed Compute. So we'll go through that as part of the demo.
So the next question is from Kanchan Divedi. Is there a site where you can derive domain-specific features?
So at this point, no, but that's a good input that we can probably take up and work with the team on that.
Yeah, so knowing a little bit, I think about Kanchan and the business that she's running, I answered that question. So basically, typically the way you kind of figure out features is you look at your data set and also a little bit of your domain knowledge. Also, what AutoML can do is it can look at specific data points in your data set, for example, say timestamps or date. And then based on that, it can generate new features, right? For example, week of year or day of week or hour of day. Or any other this thing. So maybe it can it can generate features, but I think the best gains that I have seen when I have actually worked in AI and ML is when you know a lot about the domain. I think that gives you the best bang for the buck. at that point. So with that, I think we'll move to the next question. For NLP NER, which algorithm should we try? This comes from Nishant Joshi.
Okay, so again, for NLP, we'll go through an example where we use BERT for the text feature engineering problem, and then we use the classification scenario as part of the automated ML. So that is something we'll cover in one of the examples. Regarding the earlier question on the domain, I'm just pasting a link which is called gallery.azure.ai, and that has a lot of samples that the community contributes towards, and there are samples on predictive maintenance or various different domain problems. So maybe that's something that the team can take a look at.
Cool. So yeah. So again, Nishant, your question is a little broad, but we'll cover some of the approaches. So recently, actually, I reviewed a book actually written by people from at least a couple of the authors who are from Bangalore in practical NLP. So it's actually available on O'Reilly now, or it should be available in a month or so. It's a really good book because it talks about different uses of NLP, whether it is e-commerce chatbots, whether it is building voice search. So it actually covers a practical issues when you cover a wide variety of a problem, because NLP is a very large domain because the number of languages, each language is different. There are lots of different libraries, and again, there are very specific language related or domain related issues that need to be tackled in addition to NLP. So this it's a pretty good book. I think a couple more questions that are coming, so we'll quickly take them before we move on. So Praful, if you feel that you're going to cover some of these, then what we'll do is we'll park those questions, and once that section is over, then we can talk. So what are the fintech domain applicability of AutoML of Azure? This is from Kanchan Divedi.
No, I think so. I may not be able to cover any domain specific question. Maybe we can take those offline. Vinayak.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then can I use AutoML for vision tasks? Is coming from Neeraj Khatri. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a feature as part of Azure Machine Learning called ML assisted labeling. So that what it allows you to do is you can upload some of the images, a few images, label them, and then the ML assisted labeling actually runs ML engine in the backend for you to label the rest of the data. But if you just want to take the set of problems that you have either in the image classification or for object detection using some of your data and just need a automated ML engine for you to do that, please check out Custom Vision. And I think there was a talk that happened a couple of weeks on that. So just go to customvision.ai. What it allows you to do is upload some of those images, tag. I think it requires some 15 images per class that you have. And once you upload those many images, you can just say train the project. It internally does transfer learning and uses best of the models that are available. Few years back, it was ResNext that it was using. Now I think it would have moved to something else. And that allows you to do automated ML on vision vision problems without having to do much of coding. So just check out customvision.ai. I'll just type in the URL for that.
So Praful, I've just posted the link to customvision.ai. I have also posted a link in the chat to the earlier webinar that we have done that I think Praful has referenced both in his talk and also in the also during this question. So I think we'll take this last question before we move on. So which tool do you recommend to annotate data in Azure?
So again, I'm assuming that this is for vision scenario. So I would recommend one is Custom Vision, the other is ML assisted labeling in Azure ML. Those are the two things I would refer for image annotation. And I mean the ML assisted labeling is also going to add support for text labeling. So that will be the area that you may want to look at.
Cool. I think that's it for the question. I think we can resume with the rest of the presentation. I'll put myself on mute. Over to you, Praful.
Thanks. Just share the screen again. Okay, so let me know when you are able to see the screen.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, so I think just for the question that came on NER, I just want to show this. There is something called Text Analytics API. You may want to check this out. This is part of Cognitive Services. It helps you detect various different entities and different types of entities. It could be a person, location, or it could be even a skill or technology like TensorFlow, Kubernetes will be detected. This is one of the ready APIs as part of the cognitive service, and yeah, that could be a good starting point. And then if you want to build a custom model, we can definitely connect on that. So with that, I think let me just move back to the presentation that we had. Yeah. So so we covered till the hyperparameter tuning part. Now, what Azure Machine Learning as an entire end-to-end service provides you is, first of all, this capability to use automated ML to build your models. It allows you to choose the type of compute that you want to train your model on, and then you can take the model that you have trained. It can allow you to convert that model. I mean, basically take the model pickle file, take the score.py file, and build a Docker container from that without having to do any of your own scripting or even writing Docker files. So that's something that gets automated for you as part of this process. And then taking that Docker container and deploying onto a Kubernetes cluster for a scalable scoring endpoint. So all of these are simple clicks that are enabled for you. And I think I'll just show that to you. It's through UI as well as through SDK. But this end-to-end process, and finally then the integration with this Azure DevOps for doing CI/CD and doing ML ops is what is unique offering of the machine learning as a service, right? So we covered automated ML. Let's just look at now the different compute options that you have to train your model and to deploy your model. So the compute options that we have for automated ML, you can actually just run some of the features on your own local computer by downloading AutoML SDK. Just to pip install Azure ML SDK and AutoML as a part of that. And it does, I mean, it allows you to do things like automated model selection. It may not have hyperdrive in it to do the automation of just doing parameter tuning outside of it, but you can do automated model selection. At least you can get some GPU acceleration also based on the things that you have configured on your machine, like CUDA, etc. And then you can, so these are REST all offerings are part of Azure. There is something called Data Science VM, which is basically a VM which with all data science utilities pre-installed on it. And there is a equivalent of it called as deep learning VM, which comes with GPU and has all the deep learning libraries installed on it. So that offers pretty much everything that AutoML engine has to offer. The Azure ML compute, which is something we'll look at in the subsequent demos, that allows you to again do pretty much everything. Azure Databricks has support for GPUs and for model selection, and can be used as part of the pipelines, whereas data analytics and HD Insight is getting support just for the pipelines right now. So slowly you will see more and more things getting ticked on all the boxes. But right now, I mean, these two are the best options that you have, and I would recommend Azure ML Compute, because then you're not even bound by a single VM. You can actually use a set of VMs as a cluster as part of this ML Compute. Okay. So going back to the first slide that we have, one of the things that ML Compute provides you is you can choose a choice of infrastructure that you have. You can use CPUs and again different families of CPUs, D series, which are memory optimized. You have F series, which have SSDs on them. And then there are like various other series that you have options, as well as GPUs are available on N series. And finally, then you can use FPGAs for your inference deployments, right? So the deployment options that you have, various deployment options that you have on Azure. So first of all, we spoke about taking the model, building automatically a Docker container of it. That's something that the Azure Machine Learning Service does for us, right? You can deploy this on a heavy edge. Apart from the cloud services that we spoke about, it can also deploy it on the edge. The edge can be, I mean, as heavy as something that you can have your own laptop or a server on which you are trying to deploy, or it could be a light edge on devices like let's say your own voice assistant that you're trying to build, or you're trying to build your own IoT devices and deploy ML models on the IoT devices. So those are the scenarios that you can address using the deployments on the IoT edge. Okay. Yeah, so I think with that, I'll just jump to the demos. So we'll first look at how to create automated ML workflow using WebGUI. Let me just go back to the slide. Yeah, so this is what you get if you go to ml.azure.com is the interface for Azure Machine Learning Service. For you to get and this will first ask for a workspace selection, like the way that I have configured this workspace called PWML workspace, and creation of this workspace happens in portal.azure.com. So let's say if I just so if I go to Azure portal, I can just click on create new resource. Yeah, I can select machine learning, and it gives me so this once I create this workspace here, that's when if you go to ml.azure.com, it will allow you to select that workspace right from this different drop-down buses, right? And that's that. So that's the only step that you need to do in Azure portal. After that is done, you can do everything on ml.azure.com, right? So so getting started with automated ML, as I said earlier, before we actually run the job, we need to figure out where do we want to run it, right? And that's where the different compute options come up. So there's a something called as machine learning managed compute instances. Here you can create a compute instance. So this is as good as creating a VM, but the VM is managed by the machine learning service. And you can select the type of VM that you want. If you want a D series VM or a N series VM, the N series VMs are what correspond to the GPUs. So if you really need a GPU workload, that's where you can select the N series VMs here. And once you have a VM created, what the VM allows you to do is it has Jupyter Lab as well as Jupyter Server and RStudio installed on it. You can open up the Jupyter interface. Looks like some connected issues. Okay, and then that will give you details of, I mean, what are the different notebooks that you have created and the notebooks that are available for you to execute things on, right? So that's what you have hosted on this particular VM. Now you can create a VM of any size and you can run jobs on it, but you in some scenarios you might need larger than just a VM's capacity, right? You may need a cluster of VMs. So that's when the compute cluster comes up. So when you create a compute cluster, so let's say I'll just pick up this GPU cluster. In this cluster that I have created, I have selected the type of VM, which is a VM size as standard NC6. And I've specified that I want this to be a dedicated VM. You can also specify spot VMs so that then they are allocated to you at a dirt cheap price compared to the on-demand pricing. And they may get preempted on certain occasions, but that's the one. I mean, those are the two options that you have here. And then you can specify the number of nodes that you want in the cluster. So this right now I specified 0 minimum nodes and maximum 4 nodes. So right now, if you see the cluster is having 0 nodes. The moment I submit jobs onto this cluster, it will start acquiring those nodes. And as soon as the job is finished, the cluster will again come down to 0 nodes. So that's the beauty of this, where the compute, I don't really have to worry whether I switched it on or switched it off. As the jobs require, this will start scaling up. So that's the compute options that we have. Now let's go to creation of automated ML job. Let's close this. So if I create new automated ML run, it shows me different data sets that I have. So I have one toy data sets for benchmarking train. This is a tabular data set which has different features in it. And I want to predict a column whether I want to make a marketing offer to this particular customer or not. So that's captured in this Y as a column. I'll just name this experiment. Let's say I'll just call this webinar demo. And then I specify the cluster that I want to run this on. So let's say I specify I want to run this on this CPU cluster of D13 VMs. I go next. Now it realizes that it's a classification problem that I'm trying to solve. I have an option to enable deep learning for this, and this is primarily applicable for the text scenarios where you are trying to do text classification. By enabling deep learning, it will use DNNs like BERT for featureization of the text problem. You can similarly apply automated ML for regression scenarios or for time series forecasting scenarios. Now I can go into the additional settings. I can specify that my metric, instead of accuracy, I want to use AUC weighted as a metric. Explain the best model using the interpret ML and some of the other open source ML libraries that are available for explaining the model, including feature importance of the different features used. I can also define what algorithms I don't think will work for this problem. So let's say if I am confident that Bernoulli naive Bayes, multinomial naive Bayes, and let's say KNN are not going to work best for this scenario based on my experience in the past, I've just blocking those algorithms or blacklisting them. Then I can specify how much do I want to run this for. Let's say I just want to run this for 1 hour and not more than that. And at the same time, I can also specify a threshold for a metric that don't really go beyond 0.9. I can specify the different techniques of validation that I want it to apply, right? And finally, what concurrency do I want to do? So this concurrency is something that's relevant with the compute cluster that we created. So if I have a compute cluster that can go up to, let's say, 4 nodes or 8 nodes, and each of them have 4 cores on each of that node in the cluster, I can at max run probably 8 or 10. But if I know that the compute cluster is shared between multiple users, then I don't want just my job to take up too much load on the cluster. That's why I can specify the maximum number of iterations that I can run at the same time on that cluster. So once this is done, you can even go ahead and customize the featureization setting. You can select the columns that you want to use as part of your automated ML process. You can also define the type of the feature if you want to specifically select a particular type of the feature. So I just go to the second row and let's see. Yeah, so this is a target column that is selected. Yeah. So if you want, and now once I'm done with all of these configurations, I'll just go ahead and say finish. So this is going to trigger off now automated ML job on the set of data that we submitted. It will look at different feature transformations, different algorithms, and different values of hyperparameters for each of the iteration. So this is currently preparing for that run. In the interest of time, let me show you something that's already complete so that we can save on our time. Yeah. So if I go here, if you see it has so this has executed different iterations. Each of the iteration, if you see, is a set of scaling and transformation techniques for the features like the max ABC scaler. It has applied XGBoost as a classifier algorithm. And then there are certain set of hyperparameters that it is used. The output that we got AUC weighted as 0.94, right? The best model that we got was voting ensemble, which we saw earlier, right? Which is using weighted average of different models that have been used earlier. And that gave us a 0.95447 as the AUC weighted, which was the highest amongst all the different iterations that it executed. So I can go down, I can look at what data guardrails were applied. Okay, looks like. Okay, so while that is loading up, let's look at what was the best model that was done, right? So for this voting ensemble model, I can go ahead and download this model, right? So if you see, there is a model.pickle file that is getting loaded. There is a scoring.py file that is being loaded, and there is conda environment.yaml. So this is just telling me all the different conda or pip dependencies that I need to install before I can use this scoring file and this model pickle file. So while this download is happening, I can take this now and run it locally wherever I want to run it, or I can go ahead and deploy this right from here in this interface. I can say deploy, and let me just say ACI scoring service. So you have two different compute options. There is AKS, which is Azure Kubernetes service, or I can use ACI, which is a compute instances. So I would recommend to use ACI for any of your dev workloads, but maybe AKS could be a better option for your production workloads. So we'll go ahead and deploy this onto ACI. And now if we go down, there is a section which shows all the different models that I have registered. So this is just a model registry where the pickle file, the conda environment file, and the scoring.py file is stored, which is just created here, right? That's been registered. I think we probably have not got the latest one yet here. Yeah, maybe it's still getting registered. And then we'll see an endpoint that will get created, right? I think the endpoint has come here, which is the ACI scoring service. Now this is getting provisioned, and once it is provisioned, you will see a REST endpoint. So all that is required is you can give this endpoint to a mobile app developer, and he can start integrating your machine learning model into his application. So all the process that you would have so far in terms of training your model and then passing it through development hoops to deploy that onto some server or deploy that onto some cluster, it just becomes a few clicks so that data scientists can do that end-to-end process of deploying his model. Now, everything that we did as part of that automated ML cycle through UI, you can do all of this also through the notebooks. So this is the notebook that I have running on this compute instance that we just looked at. VM compute was the name of the compute instance, right? Now this is all I'm doing here is I'm taking the similar data set of benchmarking that I had earlier. I'm defining the cluster that I want to run this on. I'm defining what type of compute cluster do I need. So I'm taking, let's say, standard D2, V2 VM and maximum of 6 nodes on it. And then I can go ahead and let me just go down here. Yeah. So this is where we specify the AutoML config. Everything that we did through the UI, similarly, we can specify how much maximum time duration do I want to give. So 0.3 is basically what, 20 minutes, right? Maximum run for 20 minutes, enable early stopping of iterations that don't give good results. How much iteration timeout do I want to do? And then how many maximum concurrent connections do I want to apply? So since I created a 4-node cluster, I'm applying this as 4 max concurrent iterations. And then you're configuring your primary metric, feature additions. Do you want to do something custom, or do you want to let the service apply the auto feature addition techniques? So all of these same configurations that we did through the UI, we can configure here in the AutoML config object and trigger off an experiment that will run my job and run it for different iterations, right? So once that is executed, now you will get the best model as an output, and you can actually go ahead and look at what was the different feature additions that were applied as part of the best model. So you'll see that I have these columns of age where there were certain uh, null values and they were modified using mean imputer, right? So I have a column called job, which was followed with chargram count vectorizer. So all the transformations that were applied on each of the columns as part of the automated ML process, you will see that right here as an output. So you can get access to this information, and that's what I meant earlier as well, that we are not trying to make a black box, but make it as much open and interpretable possible for the users to use. So now that you have access to the model that was best trained, you have access to the feature transformations that were applied by the model. Let's look at what other things that we can apply. So let me use this scenario. This is a scenario where I'm taking the 20 news group data set that we have. And for that 20 news group data set, again, I'm just specifying a configuration that it's a classification problem, as I did in the earlier case. And if you remember, there was a checkbox of enable deep learning, right? So that I'm specifying by doing enable DNN equal to true. These are the only two configurations. Rest, I mean, similar to what we were doing earlier. And I'm passing 20 news group dataset to this auto ML classification scenario. And if you see here now, it shows me the different data guardrails that it applied. It find that the all classes were already balanced, so there was not much to be done. It did so there were no features missing values were detected. It did detect some high cardinality features and did modified them accordingly. So these were the different feature transformations that were applied by the automated ML engine. It ran it through different combination of transformations and algorithm selections, and I got, let's say, a best metric of 0.8421, which was max killer HCD. Now this is the iteration that was done. I got that as part of my best model, best run or the fitted model. And now when I'm going to the details of it, I'm trying to figure out what were the transformations applied. It shows me that the transformation applied was pre-trained text TNN transformer. So let's just look at what this transformer is. Right? I'll just try to search for this. I think I did. So this is a pre-trained text TNN transformer. Yeah, let us load for a minute. So this is, if you see, is a class for fine-tuning pre-trained text DNNs like BERT that relies on Hugging Face PyTorch implementation. So this has a method called transform, and that takes input as the text corpus and gives me feature vectors from that. So so this is how I mean this particular classification scenario of automated ML for text leverages deep learning in the backend. And then finally, I think the other scenario that we spoke about where you don't want to do the entire cycle of automated ML. You know your algorithm. You also know the set of feature transformations that you want to do. All you need to do is just hyperparameter tuning, right? So in this scenario, let's say if this is a PyTorch train file that I have, where as part of my script, I'm just calling a fine-tune model method. And in that fine-tune model method, what is happening is I'm using ResNet 18 as the algorithm, as the pre-trained model. And then I am applying learning rate and momentum values and trying to build a fine-tuned model. Now, as part of this process, I can just go down and define a grid of hyperparameters that I want to specify, which is, let's say, learning rate uniform between these two values. And I want to also specify a bandit policy where I'm saying after first 10 epochs in that particular training cycle for a particular combination of learning rate and momentum, after every epoch, after these first 10 are done, check if the value of accuracy that I've got is anywhere closer to the value of accuracy that's the best so far in all the iterations before. So going back to the previous example, if you see here, if let's say these first 10 are complete, right? And from the first 10, I know my best accuracy that I've got is 0.7895. In all these subsequent, it lets the first 10 epochs run. But after that first 10 epochs, you can define interval of epochs on which you want to check what was the accuracy that was there. And if it's anywhere between, let's say, 10 or 20% of the range, you want it to continue. Otherwise, you can do early termination of some of these iterations. And again, this is user configurable. You can define your own values in the bandit policy class. And those policies will be applied when we actually do the run for those hyperparameter values. So if you see here, there are these different values of learning rate momentum were triggered. And I think I just canceled this for the purpose of demo. So I think let me go back to the slide. Yeah, so this is what we went through. I mean, the web UI for the automated ML workflow, you can use SDK to create automated ML workflow. And this is the one that we saw in the last, where you don't want to use feature transformation or algorithm selection, but just hyperparameter tuning. So you can do hyperdrive for that. And then how can you look at inside the automated ML's model, like the BERT was used for the text classification, or what were the actual transformations that were applied on each of those features. So that's all that we had to cover. And if you want to go inside into details of the engine that has been built and understand more about what techniques we leverage, these are some of the research papers that were published for the community. So feel free to go through them to understand this more into details. So I think that's all we had from the slide and demos perspective. We'll just take up rest of the time for the Q&A. Hope this was helpful.
Yeah, that was really good. In fact, I mean, one of the things I wanted to point out to the audience is, if you saw when Praful was presenting, you could see the text at the bottom. That is also coming via voice recognition engine, which also runs on some of the same models that we use for cognitive services as well. Cognitive services as well. So we have two questions actually. One comes from, the first one comes from Jacobo. If I hope I got the name right. He asks, can you install Hyperdrive on your local compute?
Yeah, so I mean, Hyperdrive is available as a library, but at this point of time, if you saw the compute graph that I showed, it did not have hyperparameter tuning as part of the for the local compute. So that's something that's not available right now, and it's also because it would require a good amount of compute for you to run. So no, I think at this point of time the answer is no for that. Whenever it is available, we'll make that reach out to you folks.
Yeah, and this is probably the last question unless people rush in their questions right now. So Neeraj Khatri asks, what if time I provided to run the model is insufficient? Would I have to restart my training? Or will it kind of checkpoint and start from that point onwards, right? I mean, this was basically for the spot instances that you talked about.
Yeah, so I think the two things I would mention. One is if it's just if you explicitly specified that I want to run it only for 20 minutes and at that point of time it did not complete, it will be a fresh run that will be triggered. That's one point. Second is for the spot instances point of view, it internally does checkpointing. So even if your underlying VM goes away and Azure has to create a new VM, assign the job to it, that will leverage the checkpointing. But at the start of the AutoML engine itself, right, if you remember the workflow, we specified exit criteria. And in that exit criteria, if you gave a hard limit of 20 minutes and the AutoML job starts, in that case, it will be a fresh run. But in case of the spot instance going away, it will not be a complete rerun. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. We lost you that for a second or so. So maybe you want to repeat the last sentence that you talked about.
Yeah, I think so. All I was saying is if it's a automated ML run that you triggered, and as part of that you specified that you need to give only max 20 minutes, and if that time gets over, then any subsequent run will be a fresh run. But if you have provided spot instances, and if the spot instance gets preempted, in that case, it will be using the internal checkpointing, and your job will not be restarted from the beginning. So just want to clarify those 2 points.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have a couple more questions come in since we talked. The first one is like ground truth. Do we have annotation tool available on Azure?
Correct. So that's both custom vision and ML assisted labeling. If you mean for the tabular data, I think there is something in work, but it's not available yet for public.
And the last question, I think Anurag Singh wants to know, does AutoML do unsupervised learning say key means?
Not yet, not right now.
Okay, cool. I think that's it from the webinar. We'll just wait for Kabir to announce, put up the slide for the social media challenge. So here it is. The winner for the social media challenge is Shaurya Chaturvedi. You win a swag bag from Microsoft for Startups. So we'll get in touch with you shortly. And thank you for tweeting. And with that, we will end this webinar. You should have got a poll about feedback for the webinar. So I hope you can fill that up before you log off. And thank you everyone for joining. Next week, we will have a talk on GitHub Actions. So keep checking website, and we'll also do some amount of social media posts. Thank you all for joining this webinar, and hope to see you soon at the next one. Bye.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day.
Bye.